Now, I originally put this Sense monitor on about 6 or 8 months ago, and at the time I noticed they had an option that you could get for it that you could hook up solar and it would show how much energy you're saving and so on like that. And lo and behold, not too long after I put it on, I actually put solar panels on top of the house. So I sent them a note and said, would you send me those? And they were good enough to send them to me. And I put them on. You know, there really wasn't much to it. The original Sense monitor just had to have a couple of plugs put in it from some clamps that clamped around the power coming from the solar panels. So it was actually fairly simple, at least in that way it was simple. I got it hooked up. I won't go into all the problems we had, but we had a number of problems getting it to work. Some of them were probably my fault, but most of them were the fault of the equipment. They finally did something. I kept calling them, of course. They finally did something down there, and all of a sudden it started working. So we did get it going. Once it's going, it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. And I'm going to show you a few pieces here of some of the readings that it would show on the phone. Because you can use the app on the phone, you can do it on the internet too, but it's kind of easier to do it on the phone. And it gives you real-time updates on the solar energy you're putting out, and it does a lot of recording and all those wonderful things that computers love to do, and gives you all kinds of history and so on like that. But once the install was finally done and working, it's been a pretty good product. So I'm going to show you a picture here of the clamps. They're in the panel. I kind of showed you this one in the last video about this thing. Pretty tight in there. But it is working fine now. And I'm going to show you a couple of the screenshots of the info this thing gives you. Now this first one, this is a reading that you know, the original Sense gave me this reading. On the one side you see the 1085. That's how much power I'm using at that time. That's just kind of a snapshot. And on the left is how much solar is coming in at that same time. If you look at the graph up above, the dark on the bottom is the power usage we're doing right now, and the light on top is the solar panel output. So solar panels are putting about 500 watts more in than I'm using right now. And that will give you a snapshot anytime you want to see it. Now the next one is if I go to the solar and I'm looking only at solar, and it's showing I'm putting out 1717 watts. So that's the amount of power that the solar is using, or is putting out right then. And then there's a little bar graph down the bottom telling you how much power it's used, and that's on a daily basis. And it's also showing down there in the lower right, it's put in 3.8 kilowatt hours. And of course, if you looked at that sun on my first part of the video, that's as high as the sun gets here. We're up north, up in Washington State, and sun gets pretty low. It's going to get quite a bit lower than that yet before it comes back up. So, well, I have 4.55 kilowatts in the solar panels, but I max out at about 2,000 in a good sunny day at this angle, because the sun is at quite an angle to the panels. Anyway, it's put out 3.8 kilowatt hours and cost me, or doesn't cost, it gains me 31 cents. So the next one, now this one's a little more complicated. This is actually the usage during the day. Now if you look on the left, there's a big block going up there. That's where I was charging the electric car. And after that we have, I'm not sure what all that stuff is, probably a washing machine. But if you look, there's a little hill in the lower right, kind of a shallow hill going up. That's actually the solar. That's how much the solar is putting out. So it does it in different colors so you can kind of get an idea of how it is. And if you look at the very top, right now, or not right now, when that screenshot was done, 1,894 watts were going in from the solar and 827 were going out. So that's about all that is. Now there's another thing here. This is showing the daily usage, and it's got the solar. Of course, it's in a different color, and it's telling you, you know, how much you're getting back, and then percentages for the rest of it. Electric vehicles, 40% of what I use today. And the hot tub was 14.8, I guess it was, yeah, 14.8. So that also gives you some history. This is a monthly one. It's got a bar chart in the top, but it's 196 kilowatts this month. I'm in November, it's the end of November. So that's how much it's put out so far this month. So overall, I think this thing actually gives me quite a good number of statistics, so I can tell exactly what's going on up there. Now I've got a website I can go to from the outfit that sold me the solar panels, and it tells me how much solar I'm getting at any given time, but it doesn't update but every 5 minutes, and this thing updates all the time. So is the Sense monitor with the solar a good addition? Well, as I've said before, the Sense does a fairly good job. It's not perfect by any means. It doesn't catch all the things, all the appliances. And I could be a little better at following up on the appliances, but in a general sense, it does a pretty good job of giving me an idea of how much power I'm using. And with these solar things on it, it's actually giving me a really accurate idea of how much the solar is putting out. So overall, I think it's a pretty good idea and pretty much worth it. Okay, that's it on this one.